back to the Book Trivia Podcast, the show where we dust off old manuscripts, investigate the interesting tidbits between the pages, and uncover the literary scandals that keep readers guessing no matter what year the book was written in. I'm Jess, and joining me today to help uncover these dastardly clues, as always, is the Sherlock to my Watson, Rach.
Oh, hi Jess, how are you?
Good. If you tuned in expecting academic lectures and footnotes longer than an Agatha Christie family tree, you might want to excuse yourself quietly before the inspector arrives. Around here, we prefer lively theories, wild side plots, and the occasional gasp of, wait, that really happened? Today, we're turning our magnifying glass on one of the most daring mysteries ever written, the murder of Roger Ackroyd, written by the master of crime, Her Royal Majesty of Mysteries, Agatha Christie. This novel broke every rule of detective fiction and still left readers clutching their pearls at the final reveal. But before we summon Poirot and start questioning alibis, let's ease in with a round of general book trivia. Rach, my first question for you. Who wrote the 1952 masterpiece, East of Eden?
East of Eden. It's not John Steinbeck, is it?
It absolutely is.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Hey, you're off to a good start. A little extra tidbit. Apparently Steinbeck was well known for his obsessive preference for writing by hand with pencils rather than using a typewriter. And for East of Eden, it's reported that he used approximately 300 pencils during his year-long writing process of the novel. That makes my hand hurt even thinking about it.
Yeah. Do you know how hard it is to make a pencil? It's incredible. I don't know why I know that, but I listened to something once about how, like, all the different components. It's a very difficult thing to produce. Anyway, Jess, your first question. I've gone with a detective theme in honour of Roger for this episode. So, question 1, name the second business partner in Cormoran Strike's detective agency.
Oh, our favourite Robin Ellicott, of course.
Correct. Well done.
I knew if you're going to do a detective question, I knew Strike was going to get involved. Okay, my second question for you. Which author was known as a master polyglot? Do you know what a polyglot is? They're a person who knows and uses several languages.
Okay,
so which author was known as a master polyglot? I can give you a clue if you need it.
Yeah, I need a clue.
He wrote Ulysses.
Oh, James Joyce.
Yeah. He was fluent in Italian, French, German, and Latin, and was highly proficient in Dano-Norwegian, Spanish, and Portuguese. And apparently he also studied, or at least was proficient, in Arabic, Sanskrit, Greek, Hebrew, Russian, and others.
Yes.
Talk about overachiever.
And did he speak Irish as well? I assume yes.
As in Celtic, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, question 2 for you, Jess. Which London-based writer has turned himself into a character in a series of his own books where he's a bumbling sidekick to a fictional detective named Hawthorne?
Do you feel like I can't answer really hard questions and
It's
that's why you always give me
detective.
Anthony Horowitz. And I'm actually reading a close to the end or whatever the fifth book is right now, which is pretty funny.
Oh, wow. So I think I just saw on the internet he pronounces it Anthony Horowitz. And I'm thinking that's not fair. Okay, Anthony, even though it's spelled Anthony, and Horowitz, even though it's spelled Horowitz.
Right.
God, tricky.
Well, I've been saying his name wrong. Sorry, Anthony.
So have I.
My last question for you, Rach. The son of which famous author once listed his famous father's occupation as wizard?
No idea. A good writer with a son. Could be anybody. Have you got a clue?
I do have a clue. Obviously, he must be referencing a famous wizard, but the wizard was not Dumbledore, so think along those lines.
Is it J.R.R. Tolkien's son, Christopher?
It is. It wasn't Christopher. It was his second son, Michael Tolkien. Apparently he was filling out forms to join the British Army during World War II, and he was frustrated by the sheer number of forms required that on one of them, under his father's profession, he wrote wizard. I kind of love that. Trolling the British Army.
Question 3 for you, Jess. You've got to name this detective character from the clues, and they go from hard to easy. Just tell me when to stop. Okay, drives a Hispano-Suiza. No.
Keep going.
Lives in St Kilda, Melbourne. No. Detective cases are mostly set around 1928.
It's an Australian detective. Okay. I'm probably not going to get this. Keep going.
Main character in a series of books which were turned into an ABC series, and it starred Kate Blanchett's flatmate from NIDA.
I don't know this. I actually have no idea. What's the initials? Give me the initials. But I think I don't know it.
The initials are PF.
Yeah. Paul Fraser. I don't know. Poopy Frankenpants.
Funnily enough, not Poopy Frankenpants, although I do love his work. It's Phryne Fisher from Miss Fisher's Murder Mystery.
No, I don't know. I have never even heard of that.
Never heard of it? There you go.
Sorry, ABC. I'm a fan of ABC, but I have not heard of it.
Let's now get into this episode's featured book, which is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This is considered one of Agatha Christie's best detective novels. So if you haven't read it, you should stop listening because we will be revealing spoilers, and it's a really great book to read spoiler-free. You have been warned. This book was first published as a book in 1926, so it's coming up on its 100th anniversary in June, and prior to that it had been serialized. It's a whodunit with many classic whodunit hallmarks. The murder, obviously, of a rich man named Roger Ackroyd. There's upper-class English people. There's a detective, which is Hercule Poirot. There's red herrings. There's big houses. There's a butler. So it's got everything. Jess, do you want to start us off with a fact?
Do you call him Hercule? I say Hercule Poirot. Am I totally wrong?
I can't say it. It's like Hercule. Hercule.
Yeah,
Let's
okay.
just call him Poirot
Hercule.
throughout. Hercule. Did I do that?
All right, let's get this back on track. You already mentioned it's 100 years old, and by all accounts, the novel was a hit right from the start. When it was first published, critics absolutely loved it. Reviewers in major papers like The Observer and The Scotsman praised it immediately, and even on the back of my copy, it is described as Christie's magnum opus. In fact, in 2013, the British Crime Writers Association voted it the best crime novel ever written. Not just one of the best, but the best. It's also one of her most famous and most controversial works, thanks to that now legendary twist ending that we're about to spoil for everyone.
So, Jess, is this the first time you read it, and did you like it?
It was the very first time I'd ever read this particular book by Agatha Christie, but I've read quite a few of her others. I've read Death on the Nile, and Then There Were None, The Murder on the Orient Express, etc. I have always loved the way she writes. She never drags out the prose with wasted details. She always keeps the plot moving and giving you just enough information that you're not sure, but you think you know who the murderer is, and often you're wrong. But I have to say, for this one, maybe I've just read too many murder mysteries because I picked the doctor for the murderer almost straight away.
Did you?
I thought it was really odd that his alibi wasn't really interrogated properly by anyone right from the start. So I had this niggling feeling that it was going to end up being him. I still loved it. I just think of all the books that I've read of hers, it wasn't my total fave. What about you, Rach? Was it your first read and did you love it?
Yeah, so this was my first read of Roger and my second ever Agatha Christie. So,
oh, okay. What's the other one you've read?
Why Didn't They Ask Evans? So, yeah, I've been meaning to read Agatha Christie, just don't get around to it. But I loved it. I did not see that twist coming at the end at all. So I thought it was so clever. And all I knew was that everything was pointing towards it being Ralph Payton. So I thought...
But it couldn't be him, yeah.
Because of the rules, like it can't be the most obvious person, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out who the murderer was. So it got me so good, and it was so much fun when the twist was revealed.
I highly recommend, if you love that, do read And Then There Were None. That one I kept changing my mind the whole time, and then when they do the final reveal, I was like, oh, well done, because I couldn't guess it.
Wow, yeah. I'm not good at guessing.
You'll never guess it, but I'm going to begin, as I always begin, by giving you a bit of a rundown of the author's life, Agatha Christie. She was born in September 1890 in Torquay, Devon, and lucky her, she was born into what sounds like quite a wealthy upper middle class family. Her father, Friedrich Miller, is often described as a wealthy, well-connected American with no fixed profession. He lived off inherited money rather than a steady job. Sounds a bit like friend of the pod Fitzwilliam Darcy Esquire, do you think?
I'm experiencing envy as you speak.
Young Agatha had 3 elder siblings and described her childhood at the family villa as very happy. The family villa, that tells you how much money they had. She was homeschooled and taught herself to read by the age of 4. And like most classic female authors that we've researched for the pod, Agatha began writing at a very early age. Her first poem dates from the age of 10. Very well done, her. I think I was probably just colouring with crayons at 10. Now, that's when it gets a bit sad. Unfortunately, not long after, her father died when she was 11 from pneumonia, and after his death, the family had to tighten their finances. Though I think they had to be quite wealthy, because by tightening the family resources, apparently she was sent to a boarding school in Paris to train in voice and piano. I hardly think that makes her destitute, but I thought that might be where she became fluent in French, no?
Oh, probably. Seems like it.
Ultimately, she gave up on professional music, and instead, as a young adult, she moved back to England, where she attended country house parties as part of the social scene. In 1912, it was at one of these very dances that she met Archibald Christie, and they married 2 years later, shortly before he left to join the World War I. Back home during the war, she volunteered as a nurse and a dispenser with the British Red Cross in Torquay, gaining first-hand knowledge of drugs and poisons that would later feature in many of her mysteries. In 1916, she wrote her very first detective novel. It was called The Mysterious Affair at Styles, and it was the one that introduced Hercule Poirot, but it was initially rejected by several publishers before appearing in 1920. After the war, Archibald had returned. She settled into married life. They had 1 child called Rosalind, and she continued to publish novels while Archie worked in the city. In April 1926, her mother, Clarissa Miller, died. The 2 of them had been very close, and the loss sent Christie into a deep depression and marked the beginning of a turbulent period in her life, which we will talk to in more detail a little bit later on, Rach?
Yeah. Back when the book was first published, the early impact was huge and it garnered a lot of publicity. And that's all down to the plot twist, which went against the conventions of the time. The twist was the 1926 equivalent of doing a rage-baiting post and it going viral on the internet. And then obviously those types of posts generate all the opinion pieces on either side because of other people seeking clicks. So back in 1926, there were a few opinions. Some were in the camp of it's cheating, and some were in the camp of all the clues are there and you can work it out if you're clever enough. So there was a lot of debate.
Do you think it's cheating?
No, I think it's amazing. I thought it was really, really good. But that obviously brought a lot of attention, and it brought Agatha Christie major recognition, and it's widely regarded as one of her masterpieces. So it's a great book.
Did you know, Rach, and I know you know because you said it in your summary, but The Murder of Roger Ackroyd shares a similar beginning to many of the other books we've covered so far on the pod. Can you guess what I'm alluding to?
No? Do I have to scroll back and try to work it out?
It started as a serial, of course.
Oh, yes. Yes. Of course.
It first appeared in the London Evening News in 1925 as a 54-part serial, and the title was actually Who Killed Ackroyd. The following year in June, it was published in book form in the UK by Collins, and that was actually Christie's first novel with Collins, which turned out to be a major reputation changer for her, as all of her earlier books were published through smaller publishers like The Bodley Head. It ended up being the start of a lifelong relationship with what is now known as HarperCollins, and that lasted the rest of her entire career. In fact, exact figures for the murder of Roger Ackroyd alone are not publicly disclosed by Christie's estate, but it's estimated that since its original release, it's sold between 40 and 60 million copies worldwide, which is wild. Yeah, and in fact, when you take Agatha Christie's entire bibliography into account, to date, she has sold over 2 billion books, which makes her best-selling fiction author ever, behind only the Bible and Shakespeare in some metrics.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that's why HarperCollins still exists and no one's ever heard of the Bodley Head Publishing House?
Yeah, I would say so.
Jess, this was Agatha Christie's sixth book, and she was only 35 when it was published. And this was the book which cemented her reputation as a master and made everyone, including the critics, really sit up and take notice of her. It put her on the map. Well, we can't talk about the murder of Roger Ackroyd without talking about everyone's favourite Belgian detective, Hercule Poirot. This was actually the third book where he took centre stage. Online sleuthing reveals that Poirot first burst onto the scene in The Mysterious Affairs at Styles, which you mentioned earlier, and the very first description of him came from his sidekick, Captain Hastings, who said he was hardly more than 5 feet 4 inches, that's my height, but carried himself with great dignity. His head was exactly the shape of an egg, and he always perched it a little on one side. The neatness of his attire was almost incredible. I believe a speck of dust would have caused him more pain than a bullet wound.
That is quite the description. Egg. The shape of his head was exactly the shape of an egg.
Poor guy. Further research has uncovered that while he's well known for being a retired Belgian police officer turned world-famous private eye, he's obsessed with perfect order in a chaotic world and detests asymmetry. One little thing in the books is that he requests 2 boiled eggs at breakfast, and he requests that they are selected to be identical size to one another because you can't have 2 different sized eggs. Sounds a little bit OCD to me. And he's also known for his fondness for drinking hot chocolate or tisanes. Now, Jess, do you know what a tisane is?
Sure, I've read it in books, but I've never actually looked it up. Tisane. What is it? Do you know?
It's a fancy word for herbal tea, which is what I drink all the time. I didn't know it was called a tisane. Peppermint tea, that's a tisane because it doesn't have any actual tea from the camellia plant in it.
I'm totally calling every time I'm going to have a peppermint tea, I'm going to call it a tisane from now on.
So am I. Thanks, Poirot. I'm going to start using that word. I need to learn how to pronounce it, but I'm going to start using it. But back to Roger Ackroyd. Poirot drags himself out of early retirement to crack the village whodunit, which is actually quite amusing because he was dragged out of retirement for a further 5 decades until Christie finally did retire him in the 1970s. So Roger Ackroyd is a great example of why he's Christie's best-known detective and featured in 33 of her novels, over 50 of her short stories, and at least one of her plays. So, Jess, did you know that the appearance of Poirot's moustache was so sacred that Agatha was asked to approve its appearance in the 1965 Alphabet Murders movie with Tony Randall? They checked with her on the appearance of the moustache.
It's fair enough. It's trademark, but it's pretty funny. I wonder what things that she was looking at that she had to say yes or no to, like needs to be bushier or, oh no, a little to the left or...
Yeah, it's the wrong colour. The curls are going the wrong way. There could be so many things going wrong with that. Who knows? Agatha was once asked her favourite Poirot book in a rare interview, and she thought about it for a while and she named The Murder on the Orient Express as her favourite Poirot. Oh. But then later in the interview, the same guy says, who do you prefer, Miss Marple or Poirot? And she says, oh, it's really difficult to choose, but I think at the moment I'm leaning towards Miss Marple. And the interviewer was like, yeah, me too.
So anyway, take the facts back to the murder of Roger Ackroyd itself. Years later, when Agatha Christie was writing her autobiography, she said that the basic idea for the plot actually came from her brother-in-law, James Watts. He'd suggested she try writing a book where the murderer turned out to be a Dr. Watson-type character, a trusted companion and the narrator of the story. Christie called it a remarkably original thought, and well, the rest is literary history. But, plot twist, there's more to the story than that, because in March 1924, Lord Louis Mountbatten sent her a similar plot idea. Do you know who Lord Louis Mountbatten is, an uncle to Rach?
I'm guessing one of the royals, because that's a royal.
Yes. Which one?
The late Queen's dead husband, would it be?
Correct. Prince Philip,
Yeah.
may he rest in peace. She later credited him for independently suggesting the same core twist as her brother-in-law, James Watts. And while she did affirm his role in the book's conception years later, she downplayed it, saying that it was more of an inspirational nudge alongside James Watts's suggestion and one other inspiration. Do you want to know what the other inspiration behind the book was, Rach, besides these two guys that are trying to take credit for it?
Yeah, tell me.
Apparently, there was this famous murder case that gripped Victorian England in 1876 called the Balham Mystery. Have you heard of this?
I don't think so.
Well, it was about a 30-year-old barrister called Charles Bravo who fell violently ill, complaining of jaw pain and claiming he'd taken laudanum, but he died in agony 3 days later, and an autopsy revealed that he had actually been poisoned by 20 to 40 grains of antimony poison that burned through his intestines. Ouch. And the suspects included Bravo's unhappy new wife, Florence, her housekeeper, and also her former lover, a doctor called James Gully. Agatha Christie suspected that Gully had poisoned Charles, like Dr. Shepherd, and she used elements like the suspicious doctor, the bedside water tampering, and the rural house setting when she wrote The Murder of Roger Ackroyd.
Interesting. Now it's time for one of my favourite bits of the episode. It's time for silly questions. So, Jess, would you rather solve the mystery halfway through the book or be totally fooled until its last page?
Oh, I would rather be totally fooled. I love to try and guess, and actually I'm annoyed when I guess too early on because then it ruins the ending. Would you say you're the same?
I want to be totally fooled to the last page, 100%.
You wouldn't read it otherwise, right?
No, I think other people would like to guess early and feel superior. I don't know. Second question, Jess, would you rather commit the perfect crime but live with the guilt forever, or be innocent but wrongly suspected by everyone for the rest of your life?
I think the first one.
Live with the guilt.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want everyone thinking that I've done something that I haven't.
Yeah, you'd rather murder someone.
I always choose the murder, don't I? Every time you ask, which one are you choosing? I'm sadistic and I didn't even know.
I don't know. I think I might be with you. I think I'd like to commit the perfect crime. Guilt schmilt. Who cares? And I do have one more hypothetical for you, but okay. I need to save it till later on until we've covered the topic.
Okay, we cannot do an Agatha Christie trivia-related podcast without doing a whole segment on her now infamous disappearance in 1926. For die-hard Christie fans, you'll already know the whole story, but hopefully we can still provide a few tasty tidbits that you weren't aware of. So we're going to dedicate this whole next section into what happened. Let me set the scene for you. It's the night of December 3rd, 1926. Agatha Christie leaves her home in Berkshire and drives into the darkness. By morning, her car is found abandoned near Newlands Corner in Surrey. Headlights are still faintly glowing. A fur coat and handbag are left inside, but there's no sign of Agatha. And what followed was one of the biggest manhunts in Britain at the time.
For the next 11 days, there was a nationwide manhunt involving 1,000 police officers, 15,000 volunteers, bloodhounds, aeroplanes. Fellow detective writer Sir Arthur Conan Doyle engaged the services of a medium to try to track down his missing colleague, and a local lake was dragged twice. Another crime writer, Dorothy L. Sayers, who was a friend of Christie's, also tried to lend a hand, and the newspapers at the time went crazy with speculation. One newspaper offered a monetary reward for information leading to her whereabouts, and the reward was £100. That's roughly equivalent to 15,000 Australian dollars in today's conversion. Jess, after 11 days.
After 11 days, boom, boom, tish! She was found on the 14th of December, 1926, at the Hydropathic Hotel in Harrogate, known today as the Old Swan Hotel. She'd checked in under a false name, Mrs. Teresa Neal. What's so weird is that surname Neal was the same as her husband's mistress. She never publicly gave a full explanation for why she chose that name. It's unconfirmed, but word on the street is that a chambermaid at the hotel recognised her. She told the manager, and the manager told the police. But in the meantime, the banjo player in the hotel band tipped off the press and collected the award you just mentioned. Everyone was scratching their head. First she was missing, now she'd reappeared suddenly as if from one of her own plots. And that's where the real mystery begins, because to this day, there has never been an official confirmation of what happened or what she did in those missing 11 days.
There's a few theories kicking around about what happened. Theory one is that she had amnesia or was in a fugue state. Points on that theory. Christie's husband said she had no memory of who she was when he arrived to pick her up from the spa in Harrogate. And some doctors later suggested a dissociative fugue or psychogenic amnesia could be the underlying reason for that kind of behaviour. And the one time she ever spoke about it on public record, she claimed that she was in the car when it crashed and her head hit the steering wheel. And from that point onwards, she lost her memory and was no longer Mrs. Agatha Christie.
The second theory points to Christie having just a complete emotional breakdown, one that makes perfect sense when you look at the timing. Just 8 months earlier, Agatha had lost her beloved mother to illness and she'd plunged into a very deep grief. Then in August, her husband Archie demanded a divorce from her to be with his mistress, and that would have put unbearable stress on top of the sorrow that she was feeling from her mum. With her world collapsing around her, that would have made the perfect storm of personal trauma and could have easily shattered her completely. And you know what, Rach? I feel like juggling work with kids and endless laundry piles, not to mention trying to drum up interest in this pod. I'm in a permanent state of mental breakdown myself, so who could blame poor Agatha? If I had a hydropathic hotel handy, I'd be checking in as Mrs. Exhausted Neil myself right now too.
Oh no. Okay. I might come with you, actually. Theory 3. The third theory is that it was a bit of a Gone Girl deliberate act for either publicity or revenge or a mixture of a few things. So points on that theory, there was never any confirmation or denial, and she only ever spoke about that episode once on record in a way that illustrates that she was extremely distressed at the time. She alluded to being quite suicidal when she spoke about it. She considered driving into a chalk pit, and that was where her car was later found. So even in her own autobiography, that whole period of her life was largely skipped over. She simply wrote, "There is no need to dwell on it." Her husband Archibald felt like the police were suspecting him in the 11 days when she disappeared. He did make it known that Agatha had mentioned she would be capable of disappearing, and then the newspapers began to speculate that she might have altered her appearance by changing her hairstyle or wearing glasses, and they were publishing photos in the papers saying she might look like this or she might look like that. And there was a theory going that she could even be dressing as a man and wearing men's clothing, and Archie checked his wardrobe to see if there were articles of clothing missing. There are some curious aspects to what happened before she kissed her daughter goodnight and went out into the car that was found crashed. She wrote 3 pieces of correspondence, one to her personal secretary that advised that she was going out, not to expect her home that night, and to cancel her meetings. One of the meetings she wanted cancelled was a planned engagement in the town of Beverley in Yorkshire. Her excuse for that was because she was feeling queer. Right? So she left that for her secretary. In that same letter, it said, "I must get away. I cannot stay here in Sunningdale much longer." Sunningdale was the house she shared with her husband. When they bought it, it was said to be cursed, and they thought, no, we're so happy the curse won't affect us. I think it maybe did. The second letter was to her husband, Archie, and he destroyed that and refused to reveal the contents of it to the police. And the third letter was to Archie's brother, Campbell Christie, who lived in London. When that was eventually received by post, she had said to Archie that she was in ill health and she was going to a spa in Yorkshire for rest and treatment. The brother-in-law did provide that information to the police, and the police did at that point seem like they were going to call off the search because they had the information she was at a spa in Yorkshire, but then they just continued searching and dragging lengths. They didn't really go around on foot and check the spas in Yorkshire. I think they rang a few and asked if Agatha Christie was there, and obviously that didn't work because she was checked in as Teresa Neal. And as you said, her husband's girlfriend was called Nancy Neal, and he'd announced the day she disappeared that he was leaving her for Nancy Neal. But when she was in the spa, she ran an ad in the Times newspaper saying, "Friends and relatives of Theresa Neal, late of South Africa, please communicate," and provided an address for people to find her. The other thing that's suspicious is that she was able to afford her holiday and she was seen carrying a well-stocked money belt in the spa. People now speculate that that was provided to her from her brother-in-law's sister, Nan Watts. So James Watts that you mentioned, his sister Nan Watts, she went to after she crashed the car into a bush over the chalk pit, and Nan gave her money to get to the spa in Harrogate, and she had lots of money to pay for everything in the spa. Later on, her books did sell, even better. Funny that.
Yeah.
She sued Archie for a divorce eventually, and he did go on to marry Nancy Neal, and I think they had a kid together. But both her and Archie stuck to that amnesia story. After he went to the spa to collect her, he claimed that she didn't recognise him and she thought that Archie was her brother and that she couldn't remember her daughter at the time. Another thing he claimed was that the surname Neal wasn't significant to either Archie or Agatha, which was clearly a lie. As I mentioned earlier, it was an off-limits topic for the rest of her life, including in her autobiography. I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of that mystery. But of the three theories, what do you think is the most likely explanation, Jess?
Definitely think she was upset.
Yeah.
If he had asked for a divorce and her mum had died, I reckon definitely. But I do wonder, I'm not sure if I really believe amnesia. I feel like maybe what's happened is she's just gone, stuff this, I'm going to get out of here. And then later, how do you explain why she put her name down as Theresa Neal? I don't know. I would like to think that while she was there, she dreamed this up. She thought, how can I twist this around? I've done this weird thing. Let me treat it like a book. And maybe she orchestrated this whole PR stuff because she was pretty clever. Maybe was that? What do you think?
Yeah, I really don't know. There is a lot pointing towards it being a bit of a revenge PR stunt. But I think it's probably a mixture of a few of the theories. She probably was feeling quite depressed and emotionally overwrought. But maybe at the same time she thought, I'll get you and make you have a horrible 11 days. But it maybe got more out of hand than she intended because she had sent that letter saying, I'm at a spa in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
So,
but it's telling that Archibald never got rid of whatever she wrote to him. Yeah. That's what I think is the key here.
I don't know, but I guess we'll never know.
The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is unique for a Christie book in that it actually was what kicked off the very first adaptations of any of her works. It paved the way for stage plays, films, radio dramas, TV specials, and even a graphic novel. There are quite a few gems here, but even as book trivia pros, we couldn't cover them all. A standout is the play Alibi by Michael Morton, which opened at London's Prince of Wales Theatre on May 15, 1928. That ran for 250 performances. And here's a little extra trivia tidbit for you. Alibi inspired Christie herself to write her own play called Black Coffee. I don't know if it actually was a hit, but she wrote her own play after that. Later, the same stage version that was adapted from that London theatre scene was turned into a Broadway show, and it was called The Fatal Alibi. But unfortunately, I guess the Americans didn't care for it as much as the Brits because it was a bit of a flop. It only lasted for 24 shows. Now, let me see what else. Well, in 1931, there was a film adaptation also called Alibi. It starred Austin Trevor as Poirot, which sadly became a lost film, meaning no known copies survive today. There's no prints, negatives, or even scripts, so it's impossible to watch. So lucky it's impossible to watch because we didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's quite a common thing for early sound films from low-budget British studios. It's something to do with the nitrate film stock degraded or it was destroyed. Often they recycled for silver. And also poor archiving wiped out many pre-1950s movies. So unfortunately, we were unable to do our usual film critique for our listeners. Sorry about that. But as we all know, Agatha Christie's Poirot was a hit TV show for ITV, which ran from 1989 to 2013 and starred David Suchet. In all, there were 13 series with a total of 70 episodes. And The Murder of Roger Ackroyd was the final episode of Series 7, airing on 19th of February 2000. As we all know, I am a consummate professional. So I sat through the 100-minute feature-length film special that was filmed in Castle Combe. Did you get a chance to watch it, Rach?
I did not even think about it. So no, I didn't. I might have to go back and do it this week.
Look, I'm going to say give it a miss. It was interesting, but I don't think it's quite necessary. What struck me is the guy who plays Poirot and is obviously the most famous for all the adaptations for playing him. He's not quite what I had in mind when I read her books. You go back to that description that you mentioned from Captain Hastings at the start. I always imagined Poirot to be very short, kind of a bit chubby, with a big bushy moustache. The David Suchet is quite a bit taller, and he plays him a lot straighter than how she portrays him in the books. In the books, he always comes across as a bit mischievous, like he always knows the answer, but he's letting you do it. But he came across very serious in the episode.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I don't know. And the reason I'm saying not to bother watching is because there isn't actually much interesting trivia tidbits. Really, the only thing of interest is that they changed the ending from the original book. For some reason, they have Shepherd run the butler over. You know, the butler? He dies in this one.
Huh?
For no apparent reason, because he wasn't killed in the book. And then at the end of the episode, it's so over-dramatized compared to the novel ending. Poirot hides Shepherd's incriminating journal to spare Caroline, his sister's, feelings. But she discovers it. She confronts the doctor. She hands him a gun in despair. He flees briefly, shoots himself publicly in front of her, and then falls off this massive ledge thing into a factory. It was really weird.
Sounds like that TV show had too much budget.
Yeah. Definitely for any listeners, I would say read the book, skip the TV show. That's my opinion anyway. Hopefully I'm not hurting any die-hard fans there.
Jess, did you know that a different Agatha Christie play, The Mousetrap, is the world's longest running play? It premiered in London's West End in 1952 and it's been continuously running for over 70 years. Audiences are still traditionally requested at the end of the show to keep the murderer's identity a secret to preserve the mystery for future viewers. And that was a rule Agatha Christie asked everyone to do back in the 1950s, and they're still doing
it. That's cute. I know of The Mousetrap. I've never seen it on stage or know anything about it, but it always reminds me of that board game, you know, The Mousetrap.
Mousetrap, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I always think of.
I went and saw it when I lived in London, but I can't remember the ending.
Well, you couldn't tell me anyway, right?
Oh, but yeah, I remember it was really good. Another fact for you, Jess, one of the writers of the Poirot TV series was Anthony Horowitz, a friend. Because he worked on Poirot for so long, he took inspiration from Agatha Christie and he wrote a modern metafiction tribute to all his favourite murder mysteries, including Agatha's, and it's called Magpie Murders, and it's actually a murder mystery within a murder mystery, and it's now been turned into a TV show.
I have that on my bookshelf. I found it in Vinnie's or something, which is second-hand stuff. I'll report back. Have you read it?
I have read it, but I haven't seen the TV adaptation. It's meant to be really good, so maybe that would be something to recommend instead of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd.
I've got a random fact about the book dedication for you, Rach. I don't know about you, but I love reading the dedication at the front where the authors say who they're dedicating the story to. In my edition, Christie's dedication in the book reads, "To Punky, who loves an orthodox detective story, murder, inquest and suspicion falling on everyone in turn! Exclamation mark. Well, of course, I had to do some sleuthing to find out who Punky was. Love the name, though I highly doubt she was referring to Punky Brewster.
Punky Brewster. That's who I was thinking of.
It's the only Punky I know. Turns out Punky was the family nickname of Christie's sister and eldest sibling, Margaret Frary Watts. Despite their 11-year age gap, the sisters remained close throughout their lives, and it was actually Margaret's husband, James, who had given her the idea to make the narrator the murderer. So I like that symmetry. You?
Well, that's lovely. And I think Punky was the one who first challenged Agatha to start writing. She said you couldn't write a murder mystery, so she did the mysterious affairs at Styles because of a challenge from Punky.
Yeah.
I don't know if James was involved in that, but thanks, Punky. There's quite a lot regarding Agatha Christie's funny relationship with her character Poirot. There are a few quotes on record about him attributed to Christie, and then people's interpretations of what those quotes mean are quite interesting because people are reading the same quotes and coming away with very different opinions. So some are believing that she hated him and was sick of him and was forced to continue to write him by her publishers and her fans. And others think it's far more nuanced and she's simply venting about him in the way you might vent about a spouse or a family member where you dearly love them but you also see all their flaws. Yeah. In any case, the final Poirot book, Curtain, Poirot's Last Case, was actually written in the 1940s but held in a safe and not published until 1975, just prior to Agatha Christie's death. So she wrote it during World War II and didn't release it until 1975. She potentially knew she was on the way out and published it. She'd killed him years and years before. She knew how he was going to die. A spoiler about that final book, he dies in the final book.
Spoiler, it's called Curtain. I think we all knew he was going to die.
It's called Curtain, Poirot's Last Case. So after the book's publication and his death, Poirot became the only fictional character to ever receive a full obituary on the front page of the New York Times. Incredible, right? He got his own front page obituary. Okay, let's start bringing this episode home with a game of true or false. Jess, I'm going to start. One of Agatha Christie's middle names was Camilla. True or false?
Agatha Camilla Christie. Yeah. No, is this one of your trick ones? I'm going to say false.
It was one of my trick ones. It's false.
Yes! Oh, I'm getting better at reading you.
I know. Her middle names were Anne and Clarissa, not Camilla. I really tried to trick you with that one.
I should have known too because I obviously have looked up the Wikipedia, so maybe it was ruminating in the back of my mind there. You can't trick me, sucker. My question for you, Rach, was James Shepherd, the narrator and eventual outed murderer in Roger Ackroyd, named after James Watt, Agatha Christie's brother-in-law who gave her the idea for the book in the first place? True or false?
True.
False. I wanted it to be true. I thought it was such a good coincidence, but I couldn't actually find any supporting evidence that she did. It could have. Maybe it is true.
Well, I'm going to say it's true. All right, Jess, true or false? Agatha Christie once incinerated a man's amputated leg.
Whoa, that has to be too specific to be false. Is it true? Or are you drinking it?
It's true. When she was working as a nurse during the war, she used to get given surgical stuff to take down to the incinerator. So it's true.
Okay. My question for you, Rach, true or false? It was so popular when it was published that a special Braille edition of the book was issued.
Well, I'm going to say true.
Correct. In 1928, the Royal National Institute for the Blind issued a special Braille edition, and actually in the mid-30s it also became one of the very first novels transferred to gramophone record for the Institute's Books for the Blind library. It was one of only 8 that had been transferred to gramophone at the time.
Well, it makes sense though because it's a huge bestseller, so you may as well do something popular.
I should have checked what the other 7 books were. Would have been interested to know.
They're all Agatha Christie.
Hit us up on the socials if you know.
The Bible, William Shakespeare, and Agatha Christie. Okay, Jess, if you don't get this one, we're stopping the podcast. True or false? Agatha Christie was a poisons expert.
high stakes, but since I already mentioned it in the biog, it is true. She was a pharmacist, is what my understanding of it was, and that's how she knew about all the poisons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't catch me.
Okay.
True or false, Rach? In 2014, HarperCollins published the first authorized Poirot continuation novel. True or false?
True.
You're correct. Yeah. It was called The Monogram Murders by Sophie Hannah, and it reached the bestseller charts in 16 territories, including the UK and the US. This has since been followed by 3 further books, most recently The Killings at Kingfisher Hall, that was published in 2020. So Poirot lives on.
Poirot did not get killed in the 70s. That opiate was a lie.
I do have an extra bonus question for you, actually. Is it true that Agatha Christie spent many seasons on archaeological digs with her second husband, Max Malloman?
I believe that is true, because my final fact is it's related to that.
Right. Well, I might leave it to you, but I will just say Sir Max Mallowan. We didn't speak about him very much, but he was her second husband, and he was actually a distinguished British archaeologist, and he specialised in ancient Near Eastern history. So apparently she often joined him using her own money to fund them on his digs.
Oh, that sounds much nicer than Archie, Max.
Yes.
I like him better. Yeah.
I'm glad she had a happy ending there.
Well, since we've done your final extra question, let's do my final silly question. Jess, would you rather disappear mysteriously for 11 days or publicly expose your cheating spouse and ruin their reputation forever?
I'm going revenge, baby. I don't need to go missing. I do like the idea of going missing and going to a spa for 11 days. However, nah. You cheat on me, I will use my PR power to destroy your life. What about you, Rach?
I don't know. I think I'd like to Gone Girl someone and disappear and make it look like they murdered them.
Like a murder, that's even worse. We are awful. Watch out. Mushroom Murders, it'll be the book trivia murders. Okay, let me get us back on track with a final fact. And this one's a weird and wonderful fact about Agatha herself, which people might not know. It's that Agatha Christie was actually a pioneering surfer and one of the first British women to stand upright on a board. Did you know this, Rach?
I did see a photo of her holding a surfboard online, and I didn't know why.
Yeah.
So that must be why.
It all started as a fun beach activity to escape her husband's busy work schedule in 1922. This is when she was still with Archie. She was accompanying him on a world tour after the war, and they apparently snuck off by train to a beach near Cape Town in South Africa, and that's where she first learned like what we would call bodyboarding now, so on her tummy. But she loved it instantly. She wrote to her sister, I'm assuming it's Punky, I'm not sure. She said, swimming is a little tame after surfing, and she raved about mastering the waves. Letters home show her obsession grew. She bought better boards, and she dreamed of trying it back in England. I don't know where she would try it back in England.
Well, she's from Cornwall, and yeah, there's famously good surf in Cornwall.
I take it back. I'm sorry. I didn't realise. But that built her confidence for Hawaii's Waikiki, and she actually leveled up to stand-up surfing on massive reef waves in Waikiki. Goodness. Obviously, she had some wipeouts, and the locals told her to stay put, but she didn't listen to them, and there you go. Do you love that?
Yeah, I love that.
Well, you know I love an Australian reference. I thought I would look up if she'd possibly surfed in Australia, because she did visit Australia during that same 1922 world tour, and she stayed here for 2 months, but it was between April to late June, which would have been getting into our colder weather, and she didn't mention any surfing, so if she did do it, we will never know. But she did rave about a specific Aussie fruit, which I hate, Rach. Can you guess which one it is?
I know what fruit you don't like from the Hungry Caterpillar, and I've forgotten what it is. Watermelon. You don't like watermelon.
I don't like watermelon, but that's not what I really, really hate, which is bananas.
Oh, banana.
Sorry to all the banana lovers out there, but anyway, Christie described our Aussie bananas as fat and white with indescribable flavour, spoilt forever.
Oh, right. There you go. My final fact is a lot more tame than yours, but you mentioned that Christie's second husband Max was an archaeologist and that she used to accompany him on archaeological digs. Did you know, Jess, that while she was on these digs she gained a reputation for being great at cleaning ivory artifacts? And it turns out it's because she was using her own hand lotion and face cream to clean up the artifacts.
Okay. Is that good for ivory, or is it actually...
Are they still using that technique today? I don't know.
Very highly inventive, I'll give her that. And that actually leads me to my final fact, which is that although she was known as the Queen of Crime, she obviously had all these different talents, such as surfing, such as ivory polishing with hand cream. And she also actually wrote 6 romantic novels under the pseudonym Mary Westmacott. So not just crime, but she loved romance as well. Apparently, she wanted to explore different themes outside of crime fiction without the pressure or scrutiny of her true identity being known. And she did indeed manage to keep it a secret for over 2 decades. Pretty wild, hey?
And are they thought to be good romance novels? Do you know?
I mean, I'm not sure, but
we'll have to read one.
I'm probably not going to read one. No. You read one and get back to me.
Yeah, in 10 years when I get around to it. What did you think of the ending of Roger, Jess?
I already alluded to it at the start, but unfortunately, as I guessed the twist really early on, the ending didn't come as that huge surprise that I imagine it would have done for everyone else. I still loved it. You know, I love everything being neatly wrapped up in a bow, and it definitely didn't leave any major red flags. What about you, Rach? Did you like the ending?
I thought it was amazing. As I said, I did not see it coming at all, and I loved the big reveal about the unreliable narrator. I just thought it was such an amazing twist.
I'm annoyed with myself.
Well, yeah, after it was revealed, I had to recalibrate the whole book and went back in my mind to the beginning. In the first few pages, he's being really insulting towards Caroline, his sister, and saying she should have a mongoose for her family crest because she's so nosy and gossipy. And at the time, I thought, oh, that's really funny, but it casts a really different light over it all when you realise that she was on the money and she knew that something had gone on with the first lady who died, the one he'd been blackmailing. I found it so satisfying to be thoroughly tricked. Love.
Yeah, I think it would be good to reread it knowing the twist because you'd pick up on a lot of those extra little tidbits that she's obviously put in there.
Yes.
To overshadow it. And that, my friends, is a wrap on our epic trawl through Agatha Christie and the murder of Roger Ackroyd. From her vanishing act that gripped the nation through wild theories and surfing adventures right up to those killer adaptations. Rach, are you ready to drop your teaser for our next pod?
Yes. Next time we were off to adopt an orphan in late Victorian Canada. What's your teaser, Jess?
Teaser is bosom buddies forever and a rival turned love interest called Gilbert.
Gilbert. Sounds hot. Thank you so much for listening. And if you like this episode, please like and subscribe. And only if you liked it, rate and review our podcast on whichever podcasting app you use. Or better still, tell a friend to listen. For more book trivia, find us at booktriviapodcast.com, and you can also follow us on Reddit and Substack where we are Book Trivia Podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.